Okay, so welcome to the uh, welcome to the Department of Corrections meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chief Judge Pro Tem Larry Williams.
Here.
Pastor Eddie Williams has requested an excuse. Deputy Chief Tiffany Stewart. Andrea Smith. Janella Robinson. Judge Donald Knapp, I believe he is en route. Norris Howard. Armand Harris.
Present.
Chief Robert Dunlap has requested an excuse. Sam Sharikian. Paul Bruno. Chief Judge Pro Tem David Braxton. Commissioner Clark Coleman.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Okay. We can then get started. You want to, I don't have an agenda. Where's the agenda? Thank you. Okay.
We are now on item B, chair remarks from the chair.
I have none.
Moving to item C, approval of the July 24th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Okay. Can I have a motion for the approval of the July 24th, 2024 meeting minutes? You need a.
They were at Mr. Thomas sent today, and I sent them out yesterday morning. It was agenda in a minute.
The
The
minutes.
minutes were behind the agenda in the package. I can resend them if you like, or if you guys would like for me to copy them off real quick, I can send them to the printer. Okay, no problem. Just give us a moment. So if you're okay, Commissioner Clark Coleman, can we come back to the approval of the minutes and move through the agenda?
Yes.
So we are on to item D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Okay.
Moving to item E under one under new business, review and approval of the Q4 report.
Good afternoon, to the chair, Lester Thomas, Administrator for Adult Community Corrections. You should have a copy of the quarterly report, fiscal year 2024, the fourth quarter. It is the big report with the long sheet of paper. And if you go to the second page, which is the long page, and you will see the red numbers, which basically highlights our utilization for the year. Lake Ridge is 140%. BFDI, Black Family Development, is at 43%. Our ETRS jail base is 64%. ETRS community is 110%. GPS Wayne County Tether is at 97%. Wayne County Sheriff Apprehension 32%. 5-day housing Wayne County Sheriff is 53%. And ETRS again DDJR is 73%. So if you notice, it is two Lake Ridge Village and the ETRS domestic community base have basically been over. They've went over the allotted, but we were able to basically maneuver some money to cover that. So we have stayed within our budget on those things. So utilization, as you can see, in the rest of the categories were lower than anticipated.
So in other words, there was a need and we were able to take advantage. We were able to address that need.
Yes, and there's no more questions on that. I can get to the fourth quarter. on the next page, so I can tell you some of the things that we've done to try and address some of the things that, we see we need to, fourth quarter only, it says that the, of course, the new CJC, already has had enhanced benefits because it's easily accessible. And, we actually have an office in that facility now, so I'll be
Which
able,
one is that?
on the next page.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have an office in that facility, so we'll be able to work closer with our partners. I've also had a meeting with the Michigan Department of Corrections, and with their staff. I had that, I believe, maybe a week and a half ago. And I actually presented again on all of our programs. So they're familiar with our program, so we can tighten it up. So we're making sure that the referrals are getting made properly. And we'll be doing that more regularly, as well as,
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I had a question.
sure.
I'm sorry, who did you meet with from the Michigan Department of Corrections?
I met with,
Was it the court services staff?
yes, I'm trying to think of,
Jacqueline Drahan?
yes,
Okay,
yeah, and
So-
her staff.
okay.
Entire staff.
So because the probation offices in the districts, they drive the majority of the referrals. So whenever the time presents to be able to come out to meet with them, that might help increase the referrals as well. We've done that in the past.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, we can do that. So I did meet with them, and I'll make sure that
okay.
we set that up.
I
so
just
we
wanted
can
to make sure
meet
who,
with
it
them,
was court, okay, it was the court services unit.
because that was the
Okay.
reasoning behind it, so everyone knows exactly about all the services.
Okay,
And we'll be updating our pamphlet also to make sure that everybody is aware of the services. We did, have a bid, somebody, what was it, Real Services, won the bid for the, violence prevention program. They were notified on October 28th. And the primary reasoning their costs, had a lot to do with them winning the grant, their proposal. We had three, bids for it was, Lake Ridge Village, Black Family Development, and Real Solutions, and Real Solutions won that. So we're excited that we finally have somebody, a vendor for, violence prevention, and will be.
Wait, did you
basic-
say real services or real solution?
Real Solutions, I'm sorry. Real Solutions. Real Solution Services.
And their bid, was it a bit, so their bid was lower,
Yes,
best, lower and best bid?
yes, Lauren best bid. So we're excited that we anticipate getting that off the ground. And lastly,
Have we worked with them before?
no, I don't believe we've worked with them before. And then, we're working also collectively on a logic module, that will, address, key point indicators that will basically, we'll have some data to look at now to see basically what is working and what's not working. So we can provide a more accurate way to monitor the outcomes of the programs that are actually provided by our vendors. And we're excited about that. We're working on that, and we actually have another meeting, with, our director tomorrow as we, continue to finalize that logic module. So that's what I anticipate for the fourth quarter. We'll focus on those things. I'll take any questions.
Coming up with the logic part. Consultant or is it in-house?
Yes, it's in-house, and it's a collective, team, because we have, like quality analysts that are there, that's what they do. So they'll be able to put together, once we get the data and the, indicators for the vendors, we'll be able to shape it and put it in like a pie puzzle, so you can see what we want, what the accomplishment, and what we anticipate. So it's a group of so far that's working on us, it's about 7 or 8, about 7 or 8 people.
Okay. I still really don't understand who's putting this together.
I think.
Is this the wrong question? Am I off?
No,
on
you're,
this?
you're, you're,
Yeah.
you're, it's a good question.
If I may, through the chair, Ebony McCann, Department of Health, Human Veteran Services, Transition Services Division Director. So embedded in the Department of Health, Human Veteran Services, there is a data analytics division spearheaded by Ms. Carolyn Nemo, who is the Deputy Director for our division. That team will analyze our contracts as well as our output, so utilization expenditures, to determine whether or not the programming that we currently offer or provide is sufficient or supporting the community. They will use that data in addition to other data elements that they collect from the community to determine if what we're offering now is viable. Obviously, that report will be presented to this body before any decisions are made regarding deviating from current plans or policies. But what she wanted to do was to ensure that the key performance indicators that are implemented in our program descriptions are tracking viable data. Right now, our vendors have been required to submit, KPIs. But a lot of times they have just been standard KPIs and not really providing us with a robust evaluation of our programming. So these KPIs that are being developed in this data metric model that is being implemented will allow us to have robust data that we can ultimately evaluate and provide a thorough analysis for moving forward.
Okay, I just wanted to know where the analytics department or where the analytics were coming from and who was in charge of that. And so I got some familiarity with how the county does it.
Yes.
I just wanted to know if it was somebody else.
Nope, it's in-house under the Department of Health, Human Veteran Services. We have a analytics division that is newly implemented that has been formed. And I can provide you with that division director's name and her team that will be ultimately providing this data analysis.
Appreciate that.
No problem.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. So is that the same, sorry, Ebony, you might be able to answer.
Ebony, would you mind just sitting
Yes,
there?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Is that the same as SMHA that I saw in the contract for the budget this year? Because I saw that there was a department or agency that was gonna be providing some analysis and evaluations and oversight.
What page are you referencing?
Contract 8, I don't know the page number. It
Contract,
says SMHA.
1 second, let me grab, can I see?
It says they were gonna monitor the referrals and operations to ensure that improved program utilization.
Is there a program name up at the
That's-
top in the header?
what it
What are you reading from?
This is
Just hold it.
oh, this is the one they sent in the email,
Oh,
not in the printout.
May I
okay.
see that, please?
Sorry.
I think I think I know.
It's the budget, right? SMH.
Oh, somehow.
Yeah, okay.
I shouldn't have, okay, so. Through the chair, Ebony McCann, Simha is a provider in the community in which we currently have one community corrections staff person who is being billed to that particular line item. So that is a salaried position that serves as the salary role for Ronald Cadez, who serves as the Assistant Community Corrections Administrator. Included in his responsibilities are the review of all of our program enrollment. So the CDU is responsible for tracking enrollment into community corrections programming. And monthly, he's responsible for submitting an MFR report in which we review, and that will ultimately or as well be sent to our data analytics division for them to review review to kind of see where we are. So Mr. Cadez and his team, they are responsible for ensuring that every inmate who's booked into the Wayne County Jail, if eligible, is screened and reviewed to determine eligibility for programming. And if they are then sent to the appropriate vendors for further disposition. I was like, what is Simha?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So it indicates here in the narrative section that an RFP for the violence prevention program.
Hold the form up that you're reading from, please.
This is the page right behind the big page.
Okay.
About a third of the way down. It says an RFP for the violence prevention program was reissued due to low initial responses. So I'm curious about how many responses
yes,
there
right here.
were initially and why it was decided to do this de novo, I guess would be the word.
So when it was first announced, were there only one person who responded?
Through the chair, that is correct.
And so because only one person responded, you decide to announce it again?
It was reissued so that we could have a robust respondent opportunity. We did receive advisement from the procurement department. The initial proposal that we received, based on the documents that were submitted, they did not meet the threshold. I think that the expectation is that you score at least 70%. And they did not, that original respondent did not score 70%. And so as a result, we reissued the RFP to allow for a more robust response. We also ensured that the information that was listed in the RFP was clear and concise to avoid any issues with interpretation of the rebid. So it was rebid as a result of there being only one respondent, and that response that we received did not meet the minimum threshold of 70% or more for us to move forward.
And so what threshold did Real Solution Services reach?
Not sure the actual percentage. I have the file on my folder. I'm sorry, I have the file on my computer. I can share that with you all, but I do know that there was towards the end of the process, there was a request for a best offer. The fund proposals that all of the vendors provided initially or originally appeared to be, they varied amongst the three vendors that provided responses. And so a best offer was requested. And based on the best offer that they provided, Real Solution Services provided to be the most beneficial cost-wise for the county, as well as the most beneficial cost-wise for the grant. When this proposal was originally issued, it was with the expectation that the award would be for $300,000 annually. As a result of the reduced funding allocation for fiscal year 2025, we were only able to allocate, and I don't know if you guys have gotten to that part, but we were only able to allocate potential $100,000 to this contract. We have not even began the negotiations with the vendor to see if they would even accept this contract for $100,000.
Wait. So originally, you were planning on the contract being 300,000
Annually, correct.
annually. And now you reduced it to $100,000?
Yes, and that is as a result of the reduced funding for fiscal year 2025.
And did the Real Solution Services who bid on this know that it's going to be reduced to 100,000?
We recently received the funding proposal from the MDOC. They had not been made aware because at the time it was received, they had not yet been awarded the contract and deemed the successful proposer. But now that we are in contract negotiations, that information will be conveyed to them. I'm not sure if Mr. Thomas had the opportunity to speak to the vendor to share that fiscal amount. But they ultimately, if this is something that they don't feel that they can provide the service for within that amount, we would go back to procurement to see what the next steps are. So I don't know if the proposer that came in second would then be extended the opportunity to enter into an agreement with us. That's something I have to look into. I've never had an instance or never encountered an instance where the funding was cut so drastically.
Yeah, but
Ultimately,
we're talking about 1/3.
yes,
I'm sorry, 2/3.
yes.
And can I add something?
Sure, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Go ahead.
we are also regarding that violence prevention, we also are in dialogue with the with the Kresge Foundation, to possibly receive more funding, and that funding would go directly to the new violence prevention program.
I have a follow-up.
Sure, go ahead, Bruno.
Since this is a new contractor, how will they be evaluated in terms of the quality of their work?
Good question.
Fair through, and that's why I think that the development of, or the partnership with this new metrics division is paramount to the services that this new vendor will provide. Additionally, when we first started talking about this violence prevention program, we talked about our partnership with the Center of Behavioral Health at Wayne State University and how they were interested in reviewing the curriculum that this provider would use, which is that HEAT curriculum. And so we do have or have had conversations with Wayne State University, the Center for Behavioral Health and Justice, for them to kind of provide an overview of the validity of that program, as well as an overview of the curriculum that they are using. And they're offering that service to us free of charge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or concerns? Good luck. I know if I bid on something now, expecting to get 300,000, and they dropped it to 100, it would be a whole nother bid.
And although we have not worked with that Real Service Solutions, I did meet with Wayne State School of Social Work, they're familiar with the agency, and they were excited. They say basically, she said they do good work. So that was a good sign that they were confident that it was a good vendor. So we'll keep our eyes open, ears open.
I do have a question since the amount of the contract was cut so drastically, in the scope of work, will this vendor take some of the services out should they choose to go with the $100,000 versus the $300,000? Is that an issue that we would have to concern ourselves with? And second, I had a question with regard to the RFP. Initially, I know you said that one vendor bid. Did you all ever put out a RFI, a request for information, as opposed to a request for bid?
So to your second question, no, we did not. I don't even know if that, sorry, through the chair, Ebony McCann. I'm not sure if that was presented as an option, but moving forward, hopefully this won't be an issue in the future. But if it is, that's definitely something that can be looked into. I think that the thought and premise was We understood and acknowledged that gun violence continues to be an issue. This has been something I think we've been talking about at this table for at least 3 years. And so in an attempt to not prolong the issuance of the RFP, I made the decision, Mr. Thomas wasn't here at that time, I made the decision to reissue it. Again, obviously, it's something that I will hope that does not occur in the future, but definitely will take that into consideration. As it pertains to your first question in regards to the thought of there being significantly no funds or the vendor having to eliminate or reduce services. So no, I think that in the proposal, the vendor suggested or projected to provide services to 60 participants. Obviously, they may or may not be able to provide MDOC grant fund is that if we can provide or show that there is a need for continued services, additional funding, we can make that request once we have sufficient documentation. So let's say Q2, it is determined that Real Solutions has enrolled 25 participants. There is a great need. The judges are referring, MDOC is referring. We need to continue this program. We can put in a request to MDOC for additional funding.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCann, for providing that level of clarity too. Because I look at it a little bit as a pilot, right? This will be the first time that this body has implemented a violence prevention program of this type. And of course, we probably wanted a huge scale, right? But I think, as you indicated, maybe the services will stay there, but the number of people that are targeted can be pretty strategic. And it'll probably help Wayne State University, because we've done some work with them in the past, have a pretty good pool of people that they're able to analyze and be able to give us more feedback on who we really need to target in the future as we ask potentially to increase the funding for this particular program. You did also mention, and generally, and I didn't see the RFP, but my thought was that usually they propose a number of people that gets us to the dollar amount. And because of this, they may say, true in fact, well, we'll have to service a quarter of that or half of that, something to that effect. That's what I'm hoping they will do, and they'll look at it as an opportunity to grow and expand. I'm not familiar with this agency, but I'm looking forward to hoping we can have something in the future.
Any other comments? Okay. Is this an action item?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yes, ma'am, it is an action item. We need to have a vote for it.
Are we taking a vote on just this item or?
We can do them all together if that's what you want to do, or we can do them
Yes.
separately.
Next.
Okay, through the chair, the next item is the fiscal year 2025 budget. You should actually have, it's two forms, this single sheet right here. And then the 2-page sheet. Let me know when you all have it. I'm going to refer to the single page first, and then we'll be able to look at the second page. As you're aware that our funding has been reduced significantly to roughly $1.3 million. And we've been working on this budget for a minute to make sure that we could present a balanced budget to you. But I want you to look at, because one of the things we worried about is cutting programs and not being able to properly fund programs. If you look at the 2-page document, you'll see our end of the year spending this year was just a little over $1 million for this year. So even though we're cut, our funding has been cut, we're confident that we'll still be able to perform and meet the requirements of this budget. And again, if utilization increases, we can always petition for more monies. So,
Okay, so we're looking at, this budget request has been 1.365.
that's correct.
All right, so what was the one last year?
Through the chair, we were awarded
.9.
1.9,
Yeah,
$1,900,000. So we are underspent by $900,000 for fiscal year 2024.
You said you're underspent or
Yes, we-
overspent?
Under. So of the award
By
that,
500,000?
no, 900,
By
excuse me.
900,000.
That is correct.
We underspent 900,000 and we were reduced 600,000.
Are you able to use this? Well, I guess you can't use the funds
No.
or anything else.
No, because this is a drawdown grant, we only are reimbursed for services that are rendered. And so these are just unutilized funds that we weren't able to use this fiscal year.
Right. Any questions on this proposed budget?
I've got to ask some questions. 'cause
Go ahead.
I'm a little bit lost. We were so underusing what we had at our fingertips that they basically cut us in half.
Through the chair, that is correct. We had two contracts. The Black Family Development Trauma Informed Care contract was not fully executed until April 2024. Black Family Development continued as a courtesy to community corrections to provide services, but they were not able to enroll the number of participants that they anticipated. We additionally had the violence prevention program line item budgeted for fiscal year 2024. I believe at $400,000, that RFP had not been issued. And so that kind of serves for the funds that we were unable to utilize. And then we had some staffing positions that were not filled. So we have one staff person that is on long-term disability that is not receiving or being billed to our grant at this time. And we had two vacancies. So community corrections is 100% grant funded. And while the two programs that I mentioned, we were unable to issue an RFP or a contract during fiscal year 2024, the negative impact that the staff vacancies had also attributed to our underutilization. And I've been very transparent in the challenges that we experienced with trying to increase enrollments. While we saw a steady increase in the GPS tether services programs, I think that you saw that in your record. Our domestic violence program in jail struggled with enrollments in fiscal year 2024. But domestic
Stop you right there.
Yes.
Is that because it wasn't being ordered or because people weren't taking advantage of it where they had the option?
I think a multitude of issues. It's a voluntary program, so ultimately you don't have to participate. But I think that there were instances where judges were referring to community-based programming, which we see in our numbers. There was a significant increase or significant utilization in the community-based domestic violence program in comparison to the jail-based domestic violence program. We also see that Lake Ridge, which provides jail-based cognitive behavioral program therapy, exceeded their utilization. And so I think that this, to Mr. Thomas' point, kind of speaks to the work or the services that we provide or have rendered have been somewhat fragmented. I think that our presence in the CJC now, with allowing us to work directly with, the Community Corrections Office is embedded in the same space as the classification unit. So individuals, Wayne County Sheriff's Office, who are additionally responsible for ensuring that individuals are housed on the appropriate housing units for programming. I just think that we have to make it our primary responsibility to ensure that everyone, all of our local criminal justice partners are aware of the programs that we're providing, and we need to be more visible, not only in the community, but where it matters, in those courtrooms, so that the judges know community correction staff members' faces. And unfortunately, we were just not able to provide that service coming back from the pandemic. I think for maybe 8 or so months, the assistant administrator position was vacant. I was serving in 2 roles. I have still had staff members who were out on leave. And so it definitely presented some challenges where I was unable to be as visible as I would have liked or would have hoped. But I'm confident that through the addition of Mr. Thomas and having some staff members returning from leave, as well as being embedded in that criminal justice complex, that we will see. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to see 100% utilization across the board. While that's my hope, I want to be realistic, because it will take more than just community correction staff driving. We have to ensure that MDOC agents are aware. We have to make sure that the judges are aware, and we got to speak to the defense attorney as well. Defense attorneys, I think Lillian Diallo is the president of the defense bar, and so that's a contact that we are looking forward to make so that we can present to her. We met with Sarah DeYoung over at the prosecutor's office. So I think we have some work to do, but we now have faces with names, and we have the presence and the staff to ensure that this heavy lift that we need to move forward to make sure that we're not faced with the same challenge in fiscal year 2026 is not as heavy. My hope is that Mr. Thomas is able to request more money in May, when fiscal year 2026 application is presented, as a result of increased expenditures for quarters 1 and 2 of fiscal year 2025.
Got a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, right?
You say there was one person that was out for a medical,
Long-term.
long-term, and then 2 other people, you had vacancies that were not filled. But you said that was for 8 months that those vacancies weren't filled?
So if I may, through the chair, there were 2 staff persons that were out for medical concerns. One has continued to be out. I think he's been out 80% of this fiscal year. And then one was out for about 6 months, and he just recently returned.
So wasn't that person on disability and therefore freeing up the money so you could bring in somebody else?
But I'm not a human resources. Yeah, so we were, as a result of some union complexities, we were unable to bring in a person to fill those positions while they were still adequately staffed by a active county employee.
So now we've got half the funds, so now we can't have those people because we can't pay for them.
That is correct. So we did, in the funding proposal, request for the addition of an additional program specialist. I don't have anything. We requested an additional program specialist as well as an administrative assistant. But because of lack of funding, we are unable to fill those positions. And so as a result, they were removed from the proposed budget to make sure that we were in alignment with the $1.3 million that we received.
So how are we possibly going to increase without staffing?
Through the chair, as I indicated, it is going to be a heavy lift, and it's going to require the efforts of not only community correction staff, but it's going to require a robust collaboration with the bench, the Michigan Department of Corrections, the defense bar, as well as the prosecutor's office, so that while Mr. Thomas and his team presents to them what programs we have available and what the referral processes are, they will also need to ensure that they are utilizing those programs and keep a track or monitor the utilization through those monthly reports that we receive.
You mentioned something and you went by it pretty quickly and I didn't, but you mentioned Black Family Development had not been able to, what did you say they had not been able to do?
So Through the chair, their contract for trauma-informed care had not been fully executed. However,
When you say execute, what do you mean?
had not been signed and approved by commission.
Oh, okay, all right.
But as a courtesy, they did continue to provide programming.
So without a contract and without funds, they provided the services.
That is correct.
And what's happening now?
Their contract has been executed. We actually are in the process of renewing their contract so that this won't happen in the future. So we are in the process of presenting to commission a 2-year renewal for Black Family Development to continue trauma-informed care for both men and women in the community.
I see. Anything else? Yes.
I guess this is the budget, this document.
Mhm.
It says that under education for group-based programs and employment, there was no spending, or is this the projection for monthly spending for 2025? No, this was the previous spending
Now, where are you looking?
on this one,
Okay.
where those two categories at the top for education and
Okay,
employment.
okay.
But down in the bottom, just below that, under other, there's spending of an award amount was $520,000. So my question basically is this: violence prevention programming, I thought that was intended to cover some elements of education and employment. So I was just wondering why that wasn't listed under the award amount as opposed to just under other.
Through the chair, Ebony McCann again. So the other line item, which Ms. Robinson is referencing, which has an amount of $520,525, that includes the violence prevention program, which included a component of cognitive behavioral therapy, employment / education, peer support, and conflict resolution. The education and employment line items, as referenced above, those would have been separate programs that would have had to be approved by the Michigan Department of Corrections, and an award was allocated for that. So we did not receive an award to have a separate educational program or a separate employment program. What we did receive an award was to have this robust violence prevention program that included components of education and employment services.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Commissioner Clark, I have a question about, I'm assuming, Ebony, July and August, the reason why there's no salaries and wages there, that's when they went on leave, I'm guessing? Just like no salaries and wages for 2 months, July and August? Is that the reason why?
I will confirm with our fiscal analyst, but I will almost err on to say that those 2 months we were unable to bill for salaries because we had met our administrative cap. This grant has administrative cap, a maximum of 30%, and MDOC will not cover over 30%. And it may have been, and I'll get clarification, those may have been months in which we exceeded our administrative cap, and so we were unable to bill or charge those services to the grant. But I will receive clarification.
And can I add to that? I just want to, since we were talking about the cap, if you see the budget, the one page, and we talked about, Ebony McCann just talked about administrative cap being no more than 30%. If you see on the new budget for 2025, fiscal year 2025, we're at 29.38%. So we have made sure that we were actually under the 30% cap. So we should be good for 2025.
Any other comments? Are there any comments from you, sir?
I just wanted the board to know that I see what you all are saying. I'm listening, and I'm confident that I think one key component that I'm seeing, and I'm already tried to set up meetings and do things, is collaboration and making sure everyone knows what we're doing so the referrals can be made properly. And whatever I have to do, whatever we have to do as a team to continuously meet, if it has to be regular scheduled meetings, to make sure that we're doing what we can to maximize community safety and appearance, we're going to do that. So I'm confident that once I form some more relationships and I make sure that everyone knows what's going on, and my door is open, my email, just call me, email me, but I'm confident that the concerns will be addressed and they've already started to be addressed.
So these referrals would have to come from the judges, is that correct?
Yes.
What are you doing to communicate with the judges what you have to offer? Because that sounds to me like that might be what's necessary.
I've already had a conversation with Jackie from the MDOC, and we're actually going to set up meetings with the judges, and actually I'm going to be visible and actually sit in the courtrooms to see what is actually happening, to see if there's anything that I notice that is not taking place or any suggestions, so I could be hands-on. It's one thing to say what's happening. It's another thing to see what's happening or what's not happening. So setting up those meetings so they know what our programs consist of, I think will be very critical, and I think we will get a positive response.
Now, I'm aware or have been informed that the judges have meetings every so often. Am I correct? And at those meetings,
That's why I was late today.
huh?
That's why I was late today.
Well, we accept your excuse. So what, from the judge's perspective, what can they do to impress upon your fellow judges about these programs? And see if you, because they've got to buy into it. They've got to, first of all, they have to have a good understanding of just what's being offered. And until they buy into it, then they're going to be underutilized. They'll use tethers and things like that, rather than programs.
I got a suggestion. I'm sorry.
Please,
No, no,
So-
go ahead.
I think it's important to hit the judges, but mainly you want to hit the prosecutors.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, most of the sentences are determined by a plea agreement.
Okay, all right.
That
So it's a
comes-
recommendation from the prosecutors. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's an
No?
agreement that's negotiated between prosecutors and their attorneys. And a lot of times those offers are generated from the prosecutor's office. So if you can convince the docket attorneys, you can convince the prosecutors who are making those offers that this is a good program, that's where the majority of your hits are gonna come from.
Good point.
Madam Chair.
I can, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judge.
Sure, go ahead.
No, I think, making sure that the probation agents, people in MDOC, if they're drafting a PSIR, can make recommendations that would be suggested to judges,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of programs out there.
I believe
And,
it.
and there, a lot of them do a fine job, but I think not only educating them, but also having people sort of recommend them as part of a sentence agreement, whether, as Judge Williams said, through agreement between the prosecutor's office and defense counsel, but also having the probation agents aware of them and make recommendations as part of a pre-sentence investigation report.
I agree. I think that's
And certainly we've had meetings where we brought people in.
mhm.
We run under a limited time, so
Sure.
it's hard to go over a whole bunch of programs when you have about 10 or 15 minutes as part of an hour-long meeting.
I agree with both of you. I think that that's an excellent idea. Because if it comes from a recommendation, then they have looked into all the possibilities. And I understand that there's so many, you can't be that well versed in every program out there. But the people who are making the referrals or the recommendations would have taken that into consideration. Makes
Madam Chair.
sense. Wait, I think that we had a question.
I just want to echo part of what the judges were saying, but I also want to add that a number of people come before the court on probation violations.
Mhm.
And they enter a plea and then the judge has to decide, am I going to continue the probation? And if so, how am I going to modify that probation? If the probation officer that's in the courtroom that is conducting the probation violation hearing says, well, by the way, Judge, I'm recommending that you do this in order to modify the probation, because as the judges are saying, there are so many programs
Yeah.
out here
Yes,
that these judges haven't got that at their fingertips. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of times we all, defense, prosecution, and the bench, rely on the probation department to make these recommendations because they're hands-on. And we see those recommendations in the PSIRs, the pre-sentence reports. And as Judge Williams was saying, sentence agreements, there is no discretion there. I mean, the prosecutor can say, it's a
Yeah.
domestic violence case. You've got to, as a part of this deal,
yeah,
take advantage of this program as part of this agreement. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be in violation of probation.
right.
And then the judges are going to figure out what the sanction might be for that. So I think if all parties are on board and working hand in glove, then I think that we can utilize a lot of these facilities that aren't being utilized. I mean, I think this is just tragic
It is.
that this funding is cut this substantially
Yeah.
because we didn't take advantage of what was out there and available to us.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yes.
I hate to throw the judges under the bus, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Because these programs can be initiated by a magistrate in the district court at the time of the arraignment. If a judge sees that one of these programs would be beneficial to the subject before them, where they're setting a bond, then that magistrate should be referring them at that point. Now, I'm not sure what percentage of cases get referred into the programs once the second arraignment, the felony arraignment happens, as opposed to the district court process. Maybe you can answer that question.
Through the chair, if I may, Ebony McCann. So, Mr. Bruno, you are correct. Prior to the pandemic, there was an AOI docket, as well as a prelim docket that took place in Third Circuit Court. There were 4 courtrooms. We had 4 community correction staff that were responsible for sitting in those courtrooms. And as you guys indicated, speaking with defense and the prosecutor attorneys prior to those cases being bound over to an actual felony docket. Maybe a year or so before the pandemic, those cases were moved back to 36th District Court. So community corrections staff were responsible for developing relationships with the magistrates at 36th District Court at those prelim dockets and AOI arraignments to share with them what programs we offered. During the pandemic, those staff persons were laid off. It was 4 of them. And prior, or as the result of us returning from the pandemic, those 4 staff persons were not recalled. So those are 4 vacant positions that individuals were doing good work, necessary work, but they weren't recalled back as a result of the pandemic. They were laid off and have since sought employment elsewhere.
So what percentage are getting referred at what stage?
Yep, I don't have the actual percentage, so that's something that I will, Mr. Thomas and I can review and research, and definitely we have, appears a list of information that we need to share back with the body, but that's something that's on my list as necessary.
Now, it is true that we make offers once it gets into the felony court. But it would be beneficial to have a person participate and, so to speak, graduate from a program at the time the offer is made. Because if the prosecutor, the pretrial prosecutor, is convinced that the person is on the right path, it makes no sense for us to have a trial, because our goal is rehabilitation, not incarceration in the vast majority of cases.
I'm sorry, I gotta push back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got some stuff to say now too.
A little bit, you know?
I saw you, I saw your gesture, so
You know, when we were writing when we were writing a case, you know, we have a presumption of innocence in this country. And, you know, the idea that, you know, we're seeing somebody that might be beneficial for a program, you know, at a certain point, it's got to be voluntary. You know, if we've decided that this person is in needing services and we want to order that, you know, I like to have a conviction first before we even get to that stage. Now, we talked about pre-pandemic, we had
staffers.
well, but we called it something like a information as to what's going on, you know, if they're on probation, if you know, they've had previous contacts like this before, information that we used to get prior to arraignment for the more severe cases, which we were determining whether to keep somebody in custody or not. And we don't have that anymore. You know, the idea that a judge, based on an investigator's report, assigning somebody or ordering someone to do these services pending a conviction, whether it's district court or bound over in that felony court, I think is a little much. You know, the idea of saying, okay, you know, we see that you could benefit from something like this. If you would like to do this, then that's okay. I get that. But the idea of forcing somebody at one of these programs or keeping them in custody, and I think it's the same thing, I've got a problem with, and I would never recommend that to my judges.
I apologize if I misspoke, but we're on the same page.
We always are.
I agree that a judge should not, without the cooperation of the subject, be ordering that at the initial arraignment. I agree with that. But it is wrong to not offer that, because many of the people that come through the criminal justice system know that they've done something wrong and want to get on a new path. They would like this opportunity, especially if the thought process is, hey, maybe I don't have to sit in a jail cell, which I might be facing if I don't choose this path. Now, the judge obviously can't coerce that,
I
but
think that's exactly what that is. You want to get out of jail, then you go into this program.
well, Sam,
so
are
it
we
is
here to
coercive.
rehabilitate?
We
or-
are,
Okay.
but may I be heard?
You
I
certainly.
got a couple of things I just want to add.
You certainly.
Now that we opened up
I've
this
given up my
can,
time, so right ahead.
as
Not
Judge
at all.
Williams said, there's a presumption of innocence. This person is presumed innocent. If you at the arraignment on the warrant, where the person is making their first appearance before a magistrate, there are all these conditions of the bond that put them into a program.
That's not what I said.
Well, I didn't say you said it, but I'm saying if that's where this is leading, then I think it becomes very coercive. And we don't even know if this person's been bound over yet. I think that's really an important stage in the program. If a person is bound over, either by a waiver of the examination or an exam is conducted and jurisdiction passes to the circuit court, that maybe is a point where we start to look at things that are going on, because at least there's sufficient evidence to show probable cause that this person committed the crime. Okay? But at the arraignment on the warrant, it is way too premature. If you want to pass out pamphlets at the arraignment on the warrant and say, here, these are things that are available to you. We might even be able to help you get in these programs if you're interested. That's fine. But to make these things conditions of bond or to, in one way or another, coerce people or lead people to believe that the court is gonna be,
You're gonna,
nicer to.
they're gonna view you
Yeah,
with that.
the impression that a defendant gathers from the coercive nature of, you could get out of jail if you go in this program. I think that that's really crossing the line. I have a real problem with that too. I don't like that at all. I want people to get help, but I also want their rights to be protected. And I think that to jump out way at the beginning and say, this is where you're going is a frightening prospect.
Okay, Janella.
Thank you. So just a little bit I wanted to add to is that we've been talking about the probation agents. Our probation agents function in two capacities. We have probation agents who work in our court services unit with Ms. Draham, as you mentioned earlier today. And those are our agents who do our pre-sentence investigations for people that are in custody, right? Those without a bond at that point. So they do make recommendations at the time of the pre-sentence investigation report to the bench on particular programs that a person may be eligible to receive. So they are working in that capacity, and they also make recommendations at the time of the violation of probation. As have our district court agents, and we have 4 districts in Wayne County that services an extremely large number of people that are under probation community supervision and not in custody in the Wayne County Jail, who also complete pre-sentence investigation reports for those people that receive the bonds, right? And they also have the capacity to make recommendations to the bench prior to sentencing for programs that they may be eligible to enter and that would meet the needs that have been assessed for that particular person. In addition to that, our agents, once the person has been placed on probation and under supervision, have the ability to make a recommendation to the bench to add a condition of supervision to participate in a program. And this generally happens while a person's under supervision and they're assessing their needs beyond just the time of sentencing, because things change, of course, during the course of supervision. And they're working with them at that time. So I do agree that it takes us all, right, to be able to inform ultimately the person who's under supervision of what's available to you and how it can benefit you. And yes, we do need to all be in agreement and see the benefit of it from the bench to the probation officer, inclusive of the person that's under supervision. But I do want to, again, go back and reiterate the importance of being able to bring this information to the agents also in the district, because they're supervising on a regular basis, daily, thousands of people for upwards sometimes 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, which is, of course, is not ever the goal. The goal is for them to move forward and progress successfully before that so they can discharge. But we do have people who need a lot of assistance in moving forward and being connected to education, employment opportunities. And we're doing a lot of different things to focus on. And I brought out what our administration is now called offender success, because we are trying to help move people forward as well. And it's because of this body that we're able to do that work. So maybe, and I love the discussion on brainstorming what could be done, and maybe we need to look at some things differently to make sure that the information is in front of everyone. What we do in the Department of Corrections every other month, we have what's called the Wayne County Community Resource Session. And we bring in agencies from across the county who provide services to both our probationers and parolees, or agencies that may have services that we don't know about. Everything from housing, employment, cognitive behavioral services. Ms. McCann has presented before as well, but it's always a re-education, because just like when Ms. McCann talked about staff leaving, staff coming, the same thing happens with us. So we're always trying to make sure we're educating them. Ms. McCann provided an informational document that has been distributed. We have to do that on an ongoing basis and stay there, because just like the judges see a lot of programs, the agents do too. So the more that we can familiarize them about the services that are available and stay in front of that, but also meeting more with the probationers, it should help. That's just one continued recommendation, that we stay in front of the probation agents in the office. Just to share real quick, we're doing some work with One Detroit, and 3 times per year, we have probationers meet with us with the DPD, with the U.S. Attorney of Southeast Michigan, and community agencies. And these are our probationers who are involved in weapon-related offenses. And those individuals, along with their family, they come, they meet with us, and they have one-on-one engagement with peer-to-peer persons, people who've been incarcerated in the past, and are able to talk to them about how to be successful and to turn away from the use of crime and using weapons in the commission of offenses. So getting in front of the person and their family has actually paid off, because the family now is saying, I didn't know you guys were saying the same thing. They didn't tell me that. They just told me you guys were trying to violate them. And they learned that we actually had programs and services. So that was just something outside of the box that we had not normally done that's been effective. And it's not ceasefire. So, and it's not a program where we're working to try to say, this is what's going to happen if you don't do this. We're trying to help people who are in the community who may not understand what's available to them, what actually is available to them, and connect them to those services. So anything, I think the violence prevention program is one of our big first steps in doing something different and outside of the box. And now we just have to get the violence prevention program out in front of those who need it and be able to benefit from it.
So I noticed that you said that you're gonna be out there at the court, in the courtrooms and all that. I think it's admirable that that's your goal. I think that that it's a lofty goal for one person. I don't know how many staff people you have available to do this, but it's something that's going to take more than just one person.
Oh, yeah. And for clarity, it's what I'm really saying is I need to go in there and see I need to see it, know what's going on. Not saying I'm going to be in there regularly, but for me to see it so I can actually analyze it and make some critical decisions.
How many staff per people do you have?
2, 3, 4, is it 5? 5.
And these are
5 and let's see, one is on,
what roles?
he's on medical. Total of 5. Yeah. So we
Include
have
yourself.
2. Yeah.
And what are their titles?
Let's see, 2 quality analysts. One is a program manager. Lisa's title. Program manager.
I think it goes back to staffing.
Yeah.
I think that you cannot accomplish what's necessary here without proper staffing. And so we're going out the world backward, because if you don't have monies, you can't hire people. And if you don't have people, you're not going to get more money. So I guess my quandary is, where do we go from here? Ebony first.
Through the chair. I think to Mrs. Robinson's point, all the points have been valid. It is definitely an issue, but I think that it will require us all working together. We're going to have to leverage resources from every criminal justice partner, which is what every criminal justice partner is doing now. I think we have had for so many years kind of worked in our own little cyclone and individually doing specific work. We're really going to have to, we speak about collaboration, but we're going to actually have to collaborate and make that our founding or foundation. And hopefully there will be an increase in need in the state of Michigan will determine that the largest county in the state of Michigan needs more money to provide and to ensure that we are continuing to reduce the overall recidivism rate for Wayne County, that our overall prison commitment rate continues to be lower than other counties statewide. But we have to prove that and make it and provide data to MDOC to support that this is a need. We have through the grace of whoever your God is, been able to maintain a low prison commitment rate. So we are definitely sending fewer men and women to prison in the state of Michigan. And that is through collaborative efforts, but I think we're going to have to make that just our founding principle, that we really, really do the work of collaboration to ensure that this is something that we can continue to do with limited persons. And hopefully, Mr. Thomas will be before you next year singing a different song, that he's able to add additional staff as a result of increased utilization in expenditures, but I do acknowledge that this is not something that he and his staff can do on their own. And so whatever support the division can provide, we will definitely be behind them 100%.
I hope so, because this is sad. To experience a cut like this is really bad news.
If I may, and to that point, Commissioner, I think Mr. Thomas was hired maybe 2 weeks before this actual award was received, and I'm not sure if he would have accepted the position had he known
I don't blame him.
was this drastic. And so to that point, again, it is my commitment to ensure that he receives the support, that he is connected and smoothly handed off to any and all criminal justice partners. And no slight to Mr. Thomas at all. He has some significant goals and plans and connections within the community. And as I've said on countless occasions, I'm confident that his connections and his insight is exactly what this board, this division needs at this time. So I'm excited to see where it goes, but it is a lofty lift.
Yeah. It's depressing. I hate to say it, but these kind of numbers, just, you look at them, you're going, how are they going, if we couldn't do it before, how are we going to do it with this kind of a cut?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had one, I didn't know if we considered in the past ever bringing in AmeriCorps Vista volunteers or college interns. I know our department has in the past utilized individuals who are studying criminal justice to work and shadow. And it helped augment some things. And I know you have to be cognizant of union guidelines and rules, but if that is something that could possibly be considered or looked into, how could that work? We have so many people who are here in university levels throughout our city that I'm sure would love the opportunity to be able to work side by side a community corrections division.
That sounds great. Can we discuss that offline to see what that looks like, what that would entail?
Okay, where do we go from? What's next?
We're on to item 3, violence prevention program update.
Well, I think didn't we cover
I
the
believe
violence?
we've covered the
covered it.
violence
Covered that
prevention,
part.
Okay.
but we need a
I think we can,
motion.
we had to
But
have a
we're
motion
gonna
and
take
support.
one motion for everything.
Okay.
What did you say?
So number 4 is the CCAB reappointments.
Number 4.
Through the chair, if I may, there are 4 CCAB board positions that expire December 31st. Formal communication will be disseminated to those 4 board members to determine whether or not they are interested in continuing their service on the board, which I hope they are. This has been one of the best discussions that we've had at this table, and I think that in order to continue it, we need to, your faces need to remain on this board. But again, a formal notification will be sent to those 4 members whose terms expire
Okay, can
December
you tell me who
31st.
they are?
I
or is
believe
it secret?
Chief Dunlap, I was looking in my email. Pam Lane sent me an email. Chief Dunlap, I believe, Mr. Sharikian. There are 2 others that are fleeting my brain at this time. But no, it's not a secret, Commissioner. I can't pull it up right now, so my apologies. But I will share that with you.
Well, we need to get as many as we can because, so that we won't run into a problem as we did today with trying to get a quorum. So we need to try to fill every single one of those positions. And beside the 4 that's up for reappointment, do we have others that are not filled yet?
I believe there are
2.
2 other vacancies, one for.
We need to get on top of these, filling these vacancies because it puts too much stress on folks who can't be here for legitimate reasons. He had to leave his courtroom to get here today. So we need to have extra people that we can depend on other than just these committed folks that I see right here. Okay. And I truly hope that the ones who are up for reappointment, please hang with us.
Yes.
We need you. Okay. All right, so you will be sending a letter out to them, urging them to please stay with us.
Absolutely.
And for those other ones, we gotta fill these positions.
Yes, I believe that there's a position for someone from the media. There are 2 positions that we've never had a person fill those vacancies. So definitely something we will be
Can you
taking
please-
recommendations.
It's us, or is it us?
Who,
Where's Pam? Is Pam's not here?
are you asking about when we send out a publication? We do that. So we send it out to.
I'm here.
Where are you?
She's on Zoom.
I'm
Oh,
on
okay.
Zoom.
So Pam, we have
Yes,
2
ma'am.
vacancies that's not filled, right?
Yes.
So what do we do about getting those positions filled?
So I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Commissioner. In the past, I've always leaned on Ebony to send me recommendations and to let me know if someone has shown an interest in that. And the recommendations have generally come from the administration in the past.
Okay, all right. Then can you please work on getting some recommendations?
I will.
To get those positions filled? Because we need to have extra folks so that in case people cannot be here, that we're still able to maintain a quorum. So we need every single appointment filled. Okay? All right. Next, we have to do we have to vote on these because these are some action items.
Motion and support for items 1 and 2.
Okay, items 1 and 2, okay.
Mr.
Items 1 is review and approval of the quarter report. And item 2 is review and approval of the fiscal year 2025 budget report. Can I have a motion on those 2 items?
So move.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported that we approve items number 1 and 2. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next, we don't have to take action on the rest of these, right?
Correct.
Information on, okay, so next item,
Item F, such other matters as may be properly.
and
submitted
I have
before
not
the
been
board.
informed of any other matters.
Item G, public comments.
Okay, it is now time for public comment. If there's anyone on Zoom, on the phones, or in the chamber who would like to make a comment, please make it now. That was first call for public comment. Second call for public comment. Does anyone here on Zoom or on the phone who would like to make a comment, please make it at this time. Last and final call for public comment. If you'd like to speak, please speak now. Okay, public comment is closed. Are there any emails?
No emails were received.
No emails. Okay, next item.
Item H, adjournment.
Okay. Motion
Second.
been properly moved and seconded. We adjourn.